available staff resources and it's an issue that's of high importance for them, they can then allocate staff to deal with it during that time. Otherwise, they might think you're working on it and then they've lost time dealing with what might be a critical issue for them. So it's an important part of the conversation that you need to have up front. All right, so I'm going to lay out 3 tools for you that might be helpful. Different companies work with different kinds of tools or different templates. So again, this is a concept and you can use it or don't use it, but it might help you in terms of thinking about your own staff resources and allocating out your resources for a given project. So when you think about, okay, here are all the activities or the actions that we need to take in order to meet our objective on your given project, one of the things that you need to think of is how to structure your team and how to divide out the work among your team members. And typically, this is consulting jargon, but we think of those as work streams. So you have one work stream addressing one set of activities, and another work stream that can act more or less independently, working on another set of activities. And the ability to divide those out allows your team to be able to collaborate with one another, but also have a certain amount of autonomy, so that you're all don't need to be talking every minute of the day, but you have like just a clear work breakdown structure. So responsibility charts. Basically what this is along the y-axis here, you have all of the activities that you have, normally in chronological order from top to bottom, identifying what it is that you need to do in order to reach your objective. And then along the x-axis or at the top, you'll have all the people on your given team. You know, those can be names or they can be roles if you're in an organization. This is one I actually developed before my job. I worked in emergency management consulting beforehand, so this is emergency management jargon, so you can ignore the actual text in there. But all these letters are, as they just identify, you know, who is the person, and it's up in the upper left-hand corner, who's accountable and responsible for the task that's actually getting done. You can be accountable, meaning that you're the buck stops here, you're the person that's responsible for it getting done. But responsible means that you're the person that's actually going to really carry it out, so you can delegate that responsibility to someone. So if you're, you know, in a management association, you know, you can delegate out the responsibility to do something, someone underneath you, you know, that person, you would be the A there, and this person would be the R. Informed, in this case, just means that this person needs to know when this is done. And coordinated, or C in this case, means that you need to be able to work with them before the task is completed. So if you can't work with them by the time the task is completed, then it's not going to get done. Informed just means that after you do it, you have to let them know. So an example of why, and we call these RACI charts in our organization, but they're called different things in different organizations. You'll see the different permutations of them. But the reason why these 4 iterations of authority or involvement are useful is that you might have one work stream that you'd like to be working fairly autonomously, working on, say, the financial analysis, taking a look at the revenue streams for the course fees for a given organization. But you might have another work stream looking at alternative revenue sources, right? So the alternative revenue sources might also be looking at, say, you might give them the responsibility to look at the current cost structure of the organization. And once they've done a given activity involved in getting the financials in order so that they're easily viewed, they need to inform the one that's looking at the course fee structure because they need that information. The reason why you need to map that out, why it's useful to map it out like this, is that you can identify individual people on the team who might be overloaded, given the fact that there's going to be interaction between these different work streams, and also the fact that different work streams need to interact at discrete points in time, and that they're not going to be fully autonomous. So it gives you the flexibility of having that planned out in the future, so everyone knows when they're supposed to coordinate with other work streams, so you don't have under-coordination or over-coordination. Does this make sense? Any questions? Okay. A second tool that you guys might have seen. Has anyone seen one of these before? Yeah, you know the jargony name for them? They're called Gantt charts, so I'll start introducing you to the jargon right now for anyone who wants to go in consulting, like G-A-N-T-T. I think it's named after the guy who put them together in this way. But the basic idea is it's just a time chart, you know? So this is your output for that timeline development process that we talked about before in terms of your project scoping, your project structuring. So why is it you'd ever want to put your time to do one of these things? Again, the whole idea is to make it highly visible And because consulting is all about communication, teamwork is all about communication, making visuals to communicate the most important points of your project will just help you communicate better by having this thing visible. It's just more easily referenceable than, say, like a written out, something in like a Word document report, you know, that's on page 3 of that report that they might put aside and never look at again. You can just tape this up, you know, your project lead. You guys probably have a project lead structure in the project members. Your project lead can have it, you know, in the team room or however you're structuring this, and everyone can kind of know that, okay, you know, you're going to have 3 weeks here, you know, by the middle of the second week, we need to have this done. Or we're totally off schedule and we need to talk about exactly how this changes what we'll be going to do by the end of the 3 weeks. Questions on this? All right, so this is the third tool, which is a project charter. So this is what we talked about before when I said that you might have a standard project contract that will do the same thing. This is just a visual way of showing you the same thing. So I actually did this one based on, what's this organization? Acceso Fundación Pro Acceso. There's a financial analysis. It's like the first 2 weeks of that project. So that one had a pretty discrete scope, so I just decided to do it based on that. This may or may not be relevant given what your client, the understanding that you have in those initial scoping discussions with your client, but I just did it as an example. So you have an objective, again, it's a SMART goal up there, which really tries to get at the root of what I thought they were trying to do, to develop a revised pricing model for non-donor revenues in order to achieve a less volatile revenue base by, and I set just arbitrarily a 3-year time frame in the future. That will be something you discuss with your clients. So your analysis activities, these are the activities. You have a little tiny Gantt chart over here just to keep that in everyone's plain view. Project outcomes, these are your, what's the impact that you ultimately want to have? So this is the why is it that they want a less volatile revenue stream? Well, it's because they have these aggressive expansion goals. It's because it's been a volatile funding year because of the financial downturn. Like who knows? But those are the key objectives that you want to keep in mind that kind of explain why it is you're going after the objective at the top. Deliverables, this just reminds everybody what it is that you're physically handing over. Key stakeholders and basically identify the people that you need to involve that all have stakes or you know, a dog in the fight with regard to this particular issue. So in this case, if you're talking about revenues for changing the course fees for this organization that they give these classes to people who are extremely low income, you think about the board members, the staff members for the organization, the volunteers for the organization, the users and the potential users, who are the people that take the course in the first place, and donors and potential donors. So if you increase the course fee, how is that going to affect, you know, the people that actually take it, that are taking it right now, the people who might take it in the future in their growth plans? Will it turn off potential volunteers? Will it turn off potential donors? So you have to take the consideration of all these points of impact when you're thinking about these kinds of questions. And the key factors of success, again, these are the critical points of things that could go horribly wrong that you want to kind of highlight and make sure that your client and your team all know about them. Questions on this? All right, so we'll just move on to the next one, which is interact with nonprofit clients. Are we going at a good pace, or is this like too fast? I assume it's not too slow, because I talk really fast. All right. So some of this might be intuitive to you, and some of it might not be. So what are the 4 key takeaways I thought were important for you when thinking about your client partnerships? So the first is, and then these are, you can also view these as things that can and do easily go wrong. So the first is listen to and respect your clients. So it's, you're gonna have 2 different impulses kind of going into this. The first might be a feeling of, I don't know anything, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm kind of coming in, and this person knows so much. Or you might have the opposite, which is the, I got this in the bag. These guys don't know what they're doing. And as you work with nonprofits, because especially if some of your Wharton students, you come in, you might expect a certain level of business acumen, and they might fall short of that. It can breed a level of arrogance kind of naturally in terms of, well, you don't even know what a database is? Like, go back to school. But the fact is that, you know, they spend their whole day, you know, 40 plus, sometimes 80 hours a week, living and breathing these ideals.